Recently, a client of mine who has been a long-term client who also became a true, really good friend of mine passed away. And with that, I realized it is the inevitable, but it's not something that we always like to talk about when it comes to finance. Sure, when we do a financial plan, I say, okay, well, what does longevity look like for you? When will you live until? But what we don't talk about always as much, and especially on FinTips, is what happens to your money when you pass away. So let's talk about that, and we can kind of figure out what you need to do with your dough to set it up so that when you pass, it's easier for your family. It's Eric with Jazz Wealth Managers, where we don't just invest the dough, we like to educate you on your dough. And I know this is kind of a tough subject, and I say that because it's not fun to talk about death, but it will happen to all of us, and we really do need to think through that because it's a big part of your financial picture. Now, with that said, I'm not an attorney. I always would suggest you go talk with an estate planning attorney to really figure out how to avoid probate, how best to title assets, all of those things to make it easier on your family. But I also can give you some just general tips here that can help quite a bit. Now, some of this may be basic for some of you, but I also think that, with 2023, it's always good at the beginning of the year to review all of this. I actually just reached out to my wife with all of what's been going on and told her, hey, we need to really sit down because even though I'm an advisor, it doesn't exclude me from reviewing these types of things. So let's take a look at exactly what it is. As I always say, go to the handy dandy board. So what you've got to think through is you've got a couple categories here. You've got things that are going to go to probate oftentimes, and you have things that are going to go directly to a beneficiary. So a beneficiary still, you can have a beneficiary when it goes through probate, but the thing is if you have a death certificate and you have certain accounts with beneficiaries, you can usually avoid probate, which costs money, takes a lot of time for the family to be able to get the assets and things like that. And so just in general, if you think through any 401k account that you have, or an IRA, or a Roth, or a taxable account, any of these type of investment accounts, things that you have that are invested assets, or even oftentimes your bank account. That's a big one to check into that a lot of people forget about. Any of these types of things, you should be able to list a beneficiary. Now, when you're listing your beneficiaries, you have a primary and you have a contingent. Primary means that's the person who is going to get the assets when you pass away. But let's just say that you're married and you and your spouse are together and you both pass away together, let's say in a vehicle accident. Horrible scenario. I don't like always talking about this, but it's just trying to lay this out for you how it would work. And so if the spouse was the primary beneficiary and you both pass away, then the next people in line would be the contingent beneficiaries. So that's who would get that money. So that's how that's going to work. With the beneficiaries, you can usually also list that out so that it is showing, let's say 50% to one person, 50% to another. Let's say you have two children and you want to leave them the assets. That was how that would work. Another thing with the beneficiaries is there's a weird thing called persterpes. P-E-R-S-T-I-R-P-E-S. Who knows where they came up with this weird word, but they did. And what this means is that if you list a beneficiary, and let's just say that you have two kids, you have Bob and you have Susie, some great names right there. So if you have Bob and you have Susie, and you list it as persterpes, what this means is let's just say that, Bob passes away, but he had a persterpes on this, then his portion would go to his children if he had children, and Susie would still get her portion only. So that's how that would work if accounts have that. Not all accounts have that as a persterpes, but that's something to look into. Another one to add in here, any kind of life insurance, making sure you have those up to date and the beneficiary. Now, when it comes to probate, oftentimes you're looking at things like real estate, more of hard assets that are things that you would have to go through to sell. So real estate, you have vehicles depending on the state that you live in. Vehicles are one of those that would have to be sold off, could potentially have to go through probate as well. So these are just a couple of the different, just basic things to think through when it comes to this. But really, I think just hitting home on making sure that you have your beneficiaries set and you review those on an annual basis so that you do know where this money is going to go and you always are confident that and you can even let your family know if you wish, so that they are expecting this. And what's going to happen for them is, if you were to pass away, then if they're a beneficiary, what you're going to have to do, or what they're going to have to do, is get the death certificate, provide the death certificate to the investment firm or the 401k or whoever that is. Then they will work on setting them up an account and getting that money moved into their name versus in your name. So that's just a quick rundown of how that works. I just encourage you to make sure that you review that this year, because it's a new year and a lot of things always change each year. It's a good one to just put at the top of the list. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch more FinTips videos, click here. Be sure to like and subscribe also.